This manga is about a group of high school friends exploring a cave for a project, only to get sent back in time in the prehistoric age, in the midst of a war with the Neanderthals. Like and subscribe. This is future foreshadowing. The story begins with a group of hunters sprinting towards a target. As they run, the main character narrates that whenever a member lets out a war cry, everyone responds. This symbolizes teamwork. On the next page, they attack an enormous tusk, their expressions a mix of fear and joy. The main character reassures himself of his own vitality, trying to boost his confidence. The chapter opens with the main character struggling with escapism. As graduation approaches, he feels he's achieved nothing and will lead an ordinary life. He laments that he'll never be the main character of anything. The guy with glasses tells him that it's normal to feel this way in a world full of information. He explains that even with an ordinary job, the future is unpredictable as long as one works hard. The main character, Taiga, gazes into the distance, unsure about his future and lacking confidence. The girls interrupt, causing embarrassment for the two boys. The girl with black hair sarcastically calls them out for their strange conversation, making the boys blush. The other girl with shorter hair calls them naive but amazing. The black-haired girl mocks Taiga, suggesting he's sulking because he's not the main character. The glasses-wearing guy, Arata, says they don't understand boys and mentions that Taiga has been trying to avoid an ordinary life by joining a martial arts gym and cycling around Okinawa. The black-haired girl mocks Taiga's self-improvement efforts, but Arata defends him, saying she doesn't know what it means to feel truly alive. A new character appears, saying he's thirsty. The black-haired girl asks if they'll make it to the winery soon. Another new character, wearing a beanie, estimates it will take 30 minutes to reach the hotel. Taiga narrates that the group is on a graduation trip, exploring Australian Aboriginal lifestyles and cave paintings for their anthropology seminar. As they walk, Arata asks Taiga if he's okay. Taiga hesitantly says he is, but Arata senses he was somewhat pressured to join the trip. Taiga admits he enjoys discussing naive topics. He feels glad he came, though there's an afterthought. In a flashback, Taiga invited a girl to join the trip, but she rejected him, citing her busy schedule with her boyfriend. This shocks and upsets Taiga, realizing she has a boyfriend despite their recent breakup. He tells her he'll inform the others of her decline. She responds by saying she misunderstood and encourages him to enjoy the trip as she waves goodbye. Taiga stands there, saddened and confused by her comment. Back in the present, one of Taiga's friends calls out to him, teasingly asking if he's thinking about his ex. Taiga, visibly angry, tells him not to call his name like that. They jokingly wrestle as Taiga puts his friend in a headlock, commenting that the way his name is said makes it sound like tiger rather than Taiga. They're interrupted by Arata, who suggests checking out a higher vantage point to spot their destination more easily. The black-haired girl asks if Arata can see it, and the guy in the beanie also inquires about the distance. Arata says it's not far, but mentions finding something more interesting. Taiga wonders what could be interesting and spots a cave. Ren, one of Taiga's friends, is surprised by the cave's size. Riku, the guy in the beanie, theorizes that it might have been exposed due to ground collapse. Arata asks if they want to explore inside, and the group agrees. Rikako, the black-haired girl, suggests they explore since the winery is close by. Yuka, the girl with shorter hair, expresses concern about the danger, but another girl with glasses, Chihoro, wants to explore as the cave looks intriguing. Yuka is dismissed by Rikako, and the group decides to head in. Taiga narrates that everyone is simply living their lives, exploring safely in a foreign country. He calls out to Ren not to run because it's dark, but Ren, undeterred, challenges Arata to a race. Yuka suggests waiting outside, but is dismissed by Rikako. Chihiro asks Riku if he has a flashlight, which he does, and he asks if she's scared. The group enters the cave, and as it grows darker, Taiga uses his phone's flashlight, revealing an ancient cave painting that stuns everyone. Riku notes that it's not in the guide, and they are all in awe of the beautiful, undocumented art. Arata exclaims that it's amazing, and Rikako excitedly declares their discovery. We can then see the main character, shocked and visibly blushing, narrate that an event like this in his boring life was something he'd never expected to happen. He then says it's something he truly never thought would occur. Taiga seemingly appears to get close, but Arata calls out to not touch anything. Arata then says it's a prehistoric drawing depicting a hunting scene, but it seemed different from what Aboriginals drew. Yuka then says it seems more like an African drawing. Ren excitedly says this was on another level than a graduation thesis. The main character keeps looking, drawn to the drawing. He narrates how his heart was racing, and that such a dramatic event would ever happen in his life. It almost felt as if the drawing led him into a new world. Arata smirks at Taiga, saying he can actually make such a face, and that he's never seen Taiga like this. We then see Taiga in his thoughts, explaining he's never been moved by anything in his life. All the people around him had those feelings, yet he didn't, and felt different. He wonders to himself if this is what it feels like to be truly moved, with a tear in his eye. Taiga then stops himself from crying, feeling embarrassed. Interrupted by Rikako and Yuka, they call out that they're experiencing headaches, which everyone agrees with. Arata then yells out that this is bad and it could be gas, so they should cover their mouths. The group quickly decides to run. We then get an explanation that caves have natural gases, which are flammable and poisonous. As the group takes off, they all seem scared, and one of them tells the others to stay calm. Suddenly, we see the rock above their heads collapse. Riku yells out to the group that it's caving in and to get down. As they all get down, we see giant rocks falling from above. Taiga wonders if he's going to die here, having accomplished nothing. We then see him thinking about his ex, who told him he's never serious about anything. She says he never seriously loved her, and that he doesn't love anybody. The main character yells out that she's wrong. His ex says that when she was with him, nothing happened at all. Taiga thinks to himself that there's nothing at all and nothing on his path. He expresses how he's going to die in this place, accomplishing nothing and leaving nothing behind, and that his life was meaningless. Taiga suddenly wakes up from his thoughts as Arata yells out to the group if they can hear him. Taiga asks Yuka if she's okay, and we see Taiga's friends above the rock asking if he's okay. Taiga says he and Yuka are fine. Arata then says, surprisingly, they're all fine and lucky. Nobody in the group was injured, but they decided to see if there's any room to gap, only to find out everywhere, and everything was blocked off. Arata quickly thinks of a plan and declares they all move forward to look for any potential exits, which they all agree to, as there wasn't anything else they could do. Luckily, there was no more gas buildup. As the group walks further, we see them panting and sweating. Yuka expresses they shouldn't have gone, and Rikako comforts her. We also find out there's no signal in the cave. As they walk, it's explained that there are no forks in the road, but many twists and turns, so they lost their sense of direction and had no idea how far they had walked. Taiga calls out that there's some kind of draft, which shocks Arata, but one of the girls agrees they can feel it, giving the whole group confidence. They all take off, Arata calls out, "Over there!" and the group decides to follow, climbing above the cave. They then discover an opening, and, hopeful, they express they're saved and can make it out. Riku thanks God, and Yuka sobs, saying she can go back now, with Rikako comforting her as always. Arata says it was quite an adventure, which Taiga agrees with. They all feel hopeful and glad their nightmare is finally ending. Or is it? One of them yells out, "Let's get the hell out of here." Another agrees, and someone else expresses how hungry they are. The group finally heads out of the cave, only for their joy to come to an end. The two girls ask what's wrong and why they're not escorting them, only to wonder where on earth they are. The girl in glasses panics, which Arata calms her down. Arata then says they've walked a lot and could have reached another destination. But Taiga wonders to himself if they really walked that far. The two girls check their phones and realize they're not getting a signal. Riku logically tells the group they would have seen such a huge tree even 3 kilometers away. Ren then yells out, "If anybody is there," which is interrupted when they all see something that surprises them. In the distance, they see some sort of prehistoric horse mixed with a donkey or Bigfoot. Taiga realizes the animal proves that the place they are in isn't the same world they lived in. The group, all stunned, wonders what they are looking at. In the next panel, we see looks of utter despair smeared across everyone's faces, as they are not only shocked, but possibly scared as well. The main character then feels he is going to go crazy from fear and anxiety, but at the same time, in the back of his mind and deep in his chest, his heart is racing. The group all looks at the animal as it consumes leaves, standing upright in a weird posture. One of them calls out, asking if they are horses, but quickly denies it. We then see Riku, presumably knowing what the animal is, only for a sudden noise to catch the animal's attention. A whoa! Which then sends the packs of animals running off. The group wonders why they are running, only for a wolf to show up and attack one of the horse-like animals. Shocked, Taiga stands there staring directly into the wolf's eyes, huffing and panting. Arata tells Taiga to get down, but it is too late as the wolves notice them. Riku says they've been noticed, and it's bad. Ren tells Riku to get down more, and one of the girls starts panicking. Suddenly, from behind above the rocks, the cave starts shaking, which also shocks the wolves. The rocks then suddenly start collapsing, making them all rush out to avoid getting crushed. In this scene, we can see the rocks tumbling down and causing a big accident. Ren then points back, saying the wolves are gone now, which Yuka confirms, urging them all to run. But Arata pauses their conversation, explaining that the place they came from became a cliff. He says, shocked and terrified, that there's nothing there. So where did they come from? Arata wonders what's going on, and the group wonders where to go now. Arata explains that they should go to higher ground to confirm their surroundings. Ren suggests they might be being pranked and that this couldn't be happening. Ren then says foreign pranks have high budgets, so it could be a prank after all, trying to find a glimpse of hope and reasoning. Rikako then asks, so were the wolves a part of the prank as well? Riku responds that there are no wolves in Australia, only dingoes, which came from stray dogs, and explains that the horse-like animal was a Chalicotherium. Chalicotherium? The group asks, confused. Riku explains that he went to college because he liked extinct animals more than anthropology. He says the animal was from the Pleistocene age. Ren instantly yells out that the Pleistocene was 1,000,000 years ago and questions if they looked at the painting and slipped back in time, challenging Riku and explaining how that seemed impossible. Still in denial, Ren explains they're being filmed for a TV show and it had to be all a prank. The group continues walking, ignoring Ren's questions. As they climb, we find out the rocky mountain has a gentle slope, so they climb with ease, but the fog is thick, preventing them from surveying their surroundings. All they can do is walk in silence, feeling uneasy. Taiga wonders where they are, if it is even real, and if they can go back. As they keep walking, they come to a halt. They see the summit, and the visibility is good. Before they can continue speaking, the sight before their eyes makes them all speechless. A scene of despair spread as far as the eyes could see. "We can't go back," said Taiga. This meant the group realized at this point they could not return home and had lost all hope. The look on everyone's faces visibly showed they were all in despair and shock, just as Taiga was. But at the same time, Taiga acknowledged that what he saw was beautiful and was overcome by emotions. We can then see the group examining and talking about the furry beast in sight, comparing it to the size of an African elephant, only to come to the realization that it is not only bigger than an African elephant, but is, in fact, a mammoth. This shocked and amazed them all. However, Ren, upset, told them that acknowledging it was indeed a mammoth meant they were in prehistoric times, and he didn't want that. We then see the two girls start to cry, coming to the same realization. Arata interrupts the three of them, telling them that even if they were to go home, they would need to avoid dying first. The two girls, surprised, hear Arata explain that their chances of surviving aren't as low as they think. He then forms a plan and tells everyone they need to find a safe place to spend the night before sunset. Arata checks his phone again, only to find no signal. The group thinks of an idea for a safe place. Taiga suggests climbing a tree, but Riku shuts it down, explaining that jaguars can climb trees, and a gap in a rock would be better suited. The group ultimately decides to go with the plan and head down the mountain slope. In the next panel, we see the group looking for a gap in the rock, only to find their options too narrow. They decide to go down further, but Riku says it's weird, explaining that mammoths lived later in prehistoric times while Chalicotherium were from an earlier age. Arata interrupts Riku, saying that books aren't always the truth, and people could only guess when prehistoric animals lived by fossils. He adds that the truth always changes with new discoveries, and some people claim prehistoric animals lived at different times because nobody has seen the truth except for them. In the next panel, somebody in the group talks about wishing they had a phone to take pictures. We then see an explanation of the Chalicotherium, which were believed to be from the Miocene to Pliocene era and had large claws, big quads, and smaller hind legs. It was also believed that they knuckle-walked like gorillas and were herbivores. The group was worried about the sun setting, as it was getting late. Then Taiga calls out to the others, finding a cave. The group decides the cave is good enough, and they should huddle up and sleep there. Despite the huge opening, they agree as they are running out of time. In the next page, we see Rikako putting up sticks to cover the cave's opening. The group agrees it is better than nothing, but realizes they don't have enough wood, so they go out looking for more. We then see Riku, Arata, and Taiga in the forest collecting wood. They find a big stash and decide to go back as it is getting dark, only to be interrupted by Taiga calling out that there was something. We then see a giant woolly mammoth with its big fur and long tusks. The group, all shocked, does nothing but stare at the giant beast, speechless. In the next panel, we see Arata's flashlight turn off. The group panics as more mammoths surround them. They decide to walk out of the forest quietly. A mammoth easily snaps a tree as it collides with it, surprising Arata. The group quickly walks out, avoiding being crushed by nearby mammoths. The trio, gasping for air, makes it back to their base. Rikako asks what the problem is, as if they saw a ghost, but nobody wants to talk about it, so they continue with their fence. In the next panel, we see the group all lying down together in a column. As they lay there, thoughts race through Taiga's mind. He thinks that once he wakes up, it will all be a dream, and everyone will call him crazy for dreaming it. Yet, he also remembers the smell of the mammoth and its breathing very vividly, proving that he clearly believes everything was real, but doesn't want to face that as reality. They are then woken by noises, which rouse the whole group and make it impossible to sleep. Ren, being loud, is told to be quiet. They also realize that the fire is about to go out, which is bad as predators could come to them. Arata tries to help by getting up to fix the fire, but Taiga stops him quickly. Taiga, nervously looking into the distance, tells Arata to wait, saying, "They're here," while visibly sweating, which surprises Arata. In the next scene, the group discusses something being close, and that there seem to be many of them out there. Suddenly, a noise that sounds like laughter causes Arata and Ren to freak out, making them stumble back. The whole group screams in panic. Arata says, "That was close," and Ren says he cannot see anything. Yuka is crying and panicking. Suddenly, Taiga gets up and grabs a stick. Rikako wonders what he's doing. Taiga plans to use the wood to keep the animals out, and Arata agrees. Unable to see in the dark, they decide to use their flashlights, revealing a horde of animals staring at them as a pack. One of them asks how many there are, and if they could break through, but Taiga says only a bear could break through, and that they were fine. We then see that Taiga was bluffing, and didn't have faith in what he said. We also find out that the pack of animals surrounded them for a while, but eventually left. Because of the sudden event, none of them were able to get much sleep, and eventually, night became day. The next day, we see Riku up on the rock. Someone asks Riku if he's up early, and Riku responds by asking them how the girls are. Arata says they finally fell asleep after crying last night. Riku then deduces that the animals from last night were hyenas. Taiga, shocked, asks if they are in Africa, confused. But Riku tells Taiga not necessarily, as hyenas also lived on the Eurasian continent. However, what was for sure was that they were not originally where they thought they were. Taiga then says, in that case, they should accept that it isn't a dream or a prank, and that it is real. He says that if they do not have the right mindset, they will end up dying, which the other two guys agree with. Arata then lightens the mood by saying that even if they are to be rescued and go home, they still have to stay alive. He then suggests they should look for food and water. Riku interrupts, pointing to a river across from them, and suggests it might flow into a lake where they first saw the mammoth. He proposes they could probably drink the water once filtered. Arata hesitantly tries to decline, as the mammoth was there. But Riku reassures him there isn't any mammoth in sight, and claims mammoths shouldn't attack as long as they aren't provoked. He adds that large carnivores are what they should fear, because those are the ones that see them as prey. The group agrees and decides to head out. Back at their base, Chihiro decides to join the adventure, while the rest of the girls stay behind. It's revealed that Chihiro didn't get to take a picture of the mammoths, so she tagged along for that reason, which makes the group laugh at her brave act. In the next panel, the group is walking in the forest. Arata, visibly scared, asks what they would do if a hyena appears. But Riku tells him they'll deal with it when it happens. The group discusses how from above, it was easier to see the river and lake, but from the ground, they can't see or hear anything. Riku reassures them it should be fine, as long as they head in the right direction. It's then revealed that Riku has a compass, surprising Arata. Riku explains he knew it would be important, and also reveals his hobby of outdoor activities, surprising the group further. The group finally spots the river and acknowledges how big it is. Riku yells at Chihiro to wait and not rush over, explaining that animals gather at water, making it dangerous. The group carefully approaches the water. An explanation follows, stating that water is a hunting ground for predators since animals cannot live without water and will always show up when there is water, making them prey. The narrative continues, explaining that crocodiles in the Mesozoic age were highly developed reptiles, even preying on dinosaurs, and have always been apex predators. At the river, the group sees deer drinking water peacefully. Riku exclaims, "There aren't any wolves or carnivores around," and Chihiro asks if it's safe. Riku agrees. Suddenly, a crocodile attacks the deer, surprising the whole group. Chihiro, clueless and close to the water, is yelled at by Taiga to get back. Another crocodile launches at Chihiro, but Taiga quickly grabs a stick and hits the crocodile, making it change its target to him. The group is shocked by the crocodile's size. Riku grabs Chihiro and takes her away, while Taiga stands his ground. The crocodile eventually turns away and swims off, leaving Taiga gasping for air. The group checks on Taiga, with Arata surprised that Taiga stood up to the crocodile. Chihiro thanks Taiga, tearfully admitting she would have been eaten without him. Arata asks if Taiga is all right, and Taiga explains his stick broke. Arata sarcastically asks if Taiga really thought he could win against the crocodile, noting how lucky Taiga was. Taiga responds that if they killed the crocodile, they would be the ones eating, shocking the others. Arata, surprised by Taiga's confidence, wonders what has changed in him. Taiga clarifies he doesn't want to be eaten, but they need to eat to survive. This shift in Taiga's attitude is a surprise to the group, who see him as more confident and adaptive. The group collects water, but remains impacted by the recent events. They understand it's survival of the fittest. Arata then calls out, halting the group as they spot a pack of mammoths in the distance. Arata suggests crossing, but Riku advises a detour. Chihiro, recovering quickly, takes pictures of the mammoths. The group finally makes it out of the forest, and Riku picks figs from a tree, explaining they are safe to eat. The group decides to fill their bags and take them back. Taiga, noticing something, heads off to investigate, surprising the group with his initiative. Taiga finds a tortoise and calls out to the group, who are surprised by its size. Chihiro identifies it as a spurred tortoise and expresses her love for animals. Taiga wonders if they could eat it, and Riku confirms they can, which excites the boys but upsets Chihiro. Back at the base, Chihiro cries as Arata explains they had no other option. It's shown the turtle is being cooked and divided, with an explanation about how humans have hunted turtles since ancient times. The group enjoys the turtle, and even Chihiro admits it's delicious, making the group laugh. A few days later, Taiga is in the woods and encounters a calm mammoth. He realizes mammoths don't pay much attention to them, as they are the strongest creatures in the world. Back at the base, the group discusses moving, with Ren explaining he saw a giant black bear. Riku identifies it as a cave bear, explaining its large range and carnivorous nature. The group decides to find a new cave spot, with Arata suggesting a move near a watering hole up north. As they search for a new base, Chihiro wonders if they are in Africa due to the tortoise. However, bears didn't live in Africa until about 20,000 years ago, suggesting they might be in northern Africa, the Middle East, or southern Europe. Arata deduces the time period to be less than 100,000 years ago, agreeing with Riku. Ren, frustrated, tells them it doesn't matter, but gets cut off by Arata, who insists it's important. Arata speculates there might be humans, surprising everyone. Taiga agrees, and Rikako excitedly suggests they might communicate with them, while Ren feels they'd be safer with a human settlement. Arata warns that humans are the most dangerous life forms, both in modern and prehistoric times. The group decides to move north, aware that the area around the watering hole will attract animals and predators. Ren finds a cave, but Arata dismisses it as the entrance is too wide. Rikako suggests a crevice between rocks, which Arata agrees might work. The group establishes their new base, finding a smaller stream nearby without crocodiles. The three guys head off to find food, and though it's not easy, they manage to catch crabs and turtles. They also spot a large number of cows near the lake, which Ren and Taiga wish to eat. The narrative then shifts to a bird's-eye view of the land, explaining that the world before human dominance was much more prosperous. Studies show that early human diets were plentiful and nutritious, but bones also reveal instances of starvation at the beginning of agriculture. The group explores further, with Ren expressing doubt about ever returning home. Taiga suddenly tells them to be quiet. We then see the three starting to crouch down and lay low, staring into the distance at what seems to be two figures. The two figures turn out to be human, and the group is startled. Riku asks Taiga what they should do, and if they could even communicate with them. Riku then points out that they have weapons, but Ren confidently tells him they have 3 of them, but gets shut down by Riku saying they've never even fought before. Ren responds by telling him, then, are they gonna be alone forever? Taiga tells the 2 of them to hold on as he stares deeply. Taiga then says something's wrong as he looks at the 2 humans from below, one of them turning around. Ren and Riku then discuss that they're worried about something behind them and if they're being chased by an animal. They're visibly nervous and alert, and we can also hear something alerting them in the distance, a noise of what seems to be a human howling. As the noise grew louder, the 2 prehistoric humans started speaking in a language that can't be understood, and leaves and trees were shaking as the 2 stood alert to their surroundings. Ren asks, what were those noises? And Riku calls out, over there in the tree. The trees and leaves grew louder, and we could then see people coming out, which surprises Taiga. Now, what seems to be a battlefield, the humans surround the other humans with numbers and weapons and start attacking each other. Ren calls out, they're attacking each other, but Riku tells Ren to get down. The lighter skin tone human hits the darker skin-toned human with what seems to be an axe stone across the face. We can then see the humans with lighter skin overpower the 2 and win the battle, leaving a bloody scene. Riku says softly, oh my God, as he witnesses the bloody scene, leaving him speechless as well as Taiga as he stares at the scene. As Taiga stares at the bloody battle, his thoughts are, if these are humans. We then see Ren visibly distraught and sick, and Riku calls out to him. Ren then vomits, and Riku calls out to him once again. This alerts the prehistoric humans